We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. As if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here. And recently, you had Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping in an extensive meeting. Putin also met with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And the press picked up on this. I don't think they hammered it home quite where it needed to be. I have not seen anyone try to bring this up to the Trump administration in a press conference, etc. However, on a hot mic, and I waited quite a while, several days to report on this. I think this might have happened on Thursday or Friday. Xi Jinping was caught discussing with Putin the idea of human organ transplants and younger quote-unquote organs and the possibility of living a much longer life and even becoming immortal. Now, one of the reasons that we continue to hone in on transhumanism as a topic here is because not only is it not about quote-unquote left or right, it goes far beyond, and I mean far beyond, the normal geopolitical arena in the sense that all of the world powers, whether they be a nation state, whether they be political in nature or technological in nature, or even just all around individuals in the business world pushing for this, is transhumanism. It's it. And transhumanism in the idea that there is a sect of people that I have constantly referred to as the quote-unquote predator class that believe that they will find a way to biologically live forever. Wow, and this illustrates every point I make, this conversation they have, okay? Experimenting on the rest of us. And I hate to tell you, but if you're watching this broadcast, you're the rest of us more than likely. You know, very few people at the top are watching Jason Bermas, but they know what I'm telling you is true, okay? Whether or not that's organ transplantation, whether or not that's something like a brain-computer interface, aka Neuralink, or other type of device, whether that's bio-nanotechnology, all right, that has a multitude of quote-unquote purposes. And I put that in quotes because I don't believe that these people at the top have perfected these technologies. And by the way, I also don't believe that they will ever achieve the type of immortality that they're talking about. I think that's the big lie. Okay? And I've had these discussions and conversations really for years with people. And you might hear my dog going a little nuts. I don't know what that's about, but I don't want to yell at him on the air. But he's whining. Just part of the human experience right here, folks. And you know what's not part of the human experience? Immortality. It's not. There has always been a quest for immortality by man since recorded history. You can go into things like the Fountain of Youth, the Tree of Life, etc. The Aronofsky picture with Hugh Jackman is really, it's one of those movies that I look back on, and it's kind of just an artful masterpiece in that regard of showing you, the human struggle to try to live forever throughout generations. And what's extremely troubling is think about how not only sociopathic that is, to be so self-centered, okay, that it's about you and you living forever. And I get it. There's a paradox there. Because for many people, when it's time to go, they don't want to go. And look, I want to live on this planet, in this realm for as long as possible. I want to do great things here. I believe you only get one shot at the title. I think this experience is awesome. Does it have its ups and downs? Yes. Does it have, its ultimately just totally disturbing, over the top, despicable aspects? Yeah. Yep. You bet it does. We see that all the time. We are capable of some really bad things too. But overall, we're pretty awesome. Now, if we were talking about technologies that would empower the rest of humanity, and what do I mean by that? Well, if I'm going to live 120, 140 years, and I'm going to live them like I'm right now, at 46 years young, which, I've lost a little pep in my step, not going to lie, but I think I can still get it back. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. I'm all for it. We're going to allot that to everybody else. You think that people who are constantly telling you that there are too many people on the planet doing too many things, too many people doing too many things. That's a Ted Turner quote. You can go watch that in Shade the Motion Picture if you like right now, free of charge, in the links down below. Among many others. Do you think they're giving you and your family that technology? I'd be doubtful about that. And that's the thing. If you want to really be honest about this subject with yourself, you have to have some historical connotations from the people that are trying to institute it. And those connotations ain't great. I'm just telling you right now. Hey, they're pretty rough, actually. Not going to lie. They're pretty damn rough. And you look at those actions and you think to yourself, is this going to benefit me? We're going to play Jared Kushner talking about immortality. Is Jared Kushner concerned about you and yours? If you watch this broadcast or if you watch my debates via like the Mario Nafal stuff, especially when I talk about the quote-unquote war on drugs and what's going on in Venezuela, right? Well, I haven't seen a policy yet in my lifetime that has stopped the drug running or the drug use, okay? And you have to color me skeptical when the people telling me about this and how we're going to do it are constantly being connected to running drugs like in Iran-Contra, or when they went into Afghanistan and the Taliban had rooted out the opium trade to the tune of like 95+%, and then all of a sudden, all this 80+%, maybe even 90% of the opium's coming from them after the U.S. takes over. That's pattern recognition. And the pattern recognition I constantly see is that not only does this predator class want to experiment on us until they can biologically live forever, They want to convince us that we can upload our consciousness into some kind of digital wonderverse. I mean, take a step back at that. Now, look, I've had a resurgence of playing video games. You know, I used to kind of take a hot dump on it back in my InfoWars days when I was just really geared up in parapolitics, but I was still, watching television shows and movies, and et cetera, et cetera. I really used to enjoy cinema. I don't watch a lot of movies now. They've just become so dull and predictable and unenjoyable. The gaming world has become more cinematic. So, in a sense, that's where my escapism now comes from. But there's also a lot of social commentary in there, etc. I worry about people that are so immersed in that world that they believe that they can become a part of it. Because I've done the VR, I've got the headsets, right? They're somewhat immersive now, but if you get into the realm of what somebody like Ray Kurzweil, the man who coined the term singularity, wants, we're talking about nanobots in our brains that you and I did not get a choice on. And even if you're talking about hardwiring somewhere along those steps, hardwiring something like a Neuralink into your brain, they are very open about read-write capabilities. So how many people do you think are going to be convinced that they can somehow upload their consciousness, even though we, as a species, as human beings, don't even know what consciousness is? All right. I'm going to pull it back for a second. We're going to get into the article. We're going to talk about Putin and Xi Jinping and this organ transplant thing and all of it. But I need your support. I need you to thumbs it up. I need you to subscribe and share. I want you to check out all the documentary films for free. And I just cannot reiterate this enough. I can't do it without you. I can't do it. There are no paychecks. Now, here's the thing, guys. There are so many people out there in the alternative world, the mainstream, that are talking about the same damn thing. They got a hot take on a Phillies baseball game and a kid. Now, great. You want to talk about that stuff? Great. You know, I mean, the train murder, which was extremely difficult to watch. I understand why people talk about those things. I'm concerned about the real stuff that transcends what everybody else is talking about, that I hope that you care about so much that you're willing to donate to this broadcast. And I want to thank everybody who has JAMA constantly supporting the broadcast. Big donors, if you don't want to do the Buy Me a Coffee, we got the PayPal. I want to remind everybody that I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm taking off 5 a.m. I could really use your support for that. You want to buy me a burger or coffee? They've taken care of expenses via my travel and hotel. That's it. Like I said, I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. I am so happy to be a part of this. I'm going to be emceeing on 9/11. Okay. Clayton Morse of Redacted is going to be live streaming the whole thing each day, 9:10 through 9:12. Remember, you can still get tickets over at ic911.org. That's the International Center for 9/11 Justice. You got family members like Matt Campbell, Bob McIlvaine, very much behind that. And then you've got other people. Now, Tucker Carlson just got announced over the past several days. But you already had U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, Dennis Kucinich, John Kiriakos, CIA whistleblower, Kurt Weldon of Able Danger, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer of Able Danger. Of course, Richard Gage, who's been exposing the controlled demolitions for years. I've known Richard for years. Richard's really the one that got me to come. Because had Richard not called me, I would have just virtually done it like this because of, I hate to tell you, it's just like I told you with the whole Owen and Alex thing and InfoWars thing. And, I'm not here to get into that, but money matters. And money in alternative media is extremely tough to come by. Extremely tough to come by. So if you like it, please, the donations are down below. I do want to thank the River City Reader for supporting me. And of course, if you are buying or selling a business, marigoldresources.com is the place to go check out. You go there, there's the phone number or the email. They will cross the T's, dot the I's, and make sure you get the best deal possible. Let's get into it. Hot Mike catches Putin and Xi discussing organ transplants and immortality. Okay, so these guys are walking, and I love the authoritarian strongmen, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. And hey, whatever. They're talking transhumanism, have mused on how organ transplants might lead to immortality during a brief exchange of small talk. It's just small talk. Caught on a hot mic at a military parade. The Russian president was in Beijing on Wednesday with the Chinese leader who hosted allies for a ceremony to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Okay, and then those are good things. You know, China, 1.3 billion people. And I think Russia is only, I think it's under the 200 million mark. If somebody wants to give me the actual number down below. But I think they are relatively smaller in population to the United States. They have obviously a large landmass. As Putin and Xi walked at the head of the delegation of foreign leaders, state media, and live footage that captured parts of what appeared to be a private conversation. Oh, look at that. They could be here saying in Chinese, biotechnology is continuously developing. Oh, really? How about that? Human organs can be continuously transplanted. The longer you live, the younger you become, and you can even achieve immortality. Xi, who was off camera, could be heard responding to in Chinese. Some predict that in this century, humans may live to 150 years old. Let me take on those comments. Number one, okay, I don't know how many of you out there have ever had surgery. It sucks. It isn't a walk in the park, okay? Now, I only know this because at 20, I had to have lower hernia surgery. And that was minor surgery. I obviously do not remember any of it other than I remember being shaved, being in the gas, counting, going under, and then waking up. And, when I woke up, went home, and how painful it was. I was an outpatient in the several days after. Okay. Minor surgery, got a scar to this day. We're talking organ transplants? That's some serious stuff. Okay. Not my cup of tea for transhumanism. I mean, you really, really got to want it. But those organs got to come from somewhere. I wonder who. Now, we got a whole thing. We're actually going to play some Rothblatt a little later on with xenotransplantation, a.k.a. Gestating organs, human organs inside of pigs. So far, not so great on that. At least that from what we've seen in public. Okay, the body rejects a lot of this stuff. I mean, I look at somebody like Ben Askren, who right now, I think he's been awake close to 2 months, somewhere in there. Double lung transplant, died several times. I mean, Ben was one of the most physically and mentally strong people I know. And God love him. I mean, he's going to it. He's doing it to it. I would never want to put myself in a position where I'm transplanting these organs. And then this idea that we're going to live for forever or live for 150 years. It sounds great on paper, but they told my generation that we would be curing cancer. Has that happened? Has that happened in my generation? Or did we miss that? It's a little odd. I don't remember experiencing us. Oh, wait, no, cancer's exploded. Remember, grandparents used to die in their 80s, 90s, or some of them even made it to 100. Does that happen right now? Or are people dying in their 60s and 70s? What's really going on? So, what's strange to me is that these things can constantly be repeated as though they're fact or they're the trend when the opposite is true. And all you have to do is take a step back and ask yourself some basic questions to figure that out. Okay? So I've got a string of clips here to kind of illustrate some of the points that we've made. One of the points is this idea of human immortality and a class of people, whether they're Russian, Chinese, or American, that believe they can live forever. And that class of people includes Kushner, the Kush, okay? Not the poot, but the Kush. Let's see what Jared has to say.
And then finally, I think that from the last year, the one thing I've tried to put a priority on since I left the White House was getting some exercise in. I think that there's a good probability that my generation is, hopefully with the advances in science, either the first generation to live forever or the last generation that's going to die. And so we need to keep ourselves in pretty good shape.
Now, we're going to get to Kurzweil in a second, okay? But I want everybody just to kind of think about what he just said, okay? Because it's really important. He's talking about, again, it's the sell on a generation. By the way, he walked that back. Well, I was just kidding around. No, you weren't. You weren't kidding around at all. Is this going to be generational? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This will be the most class-driven technology you can imagine. And meanwhile, they're going to try to sell you on the artificial entities that they create. Now, here's Kurzweil. Back in 99, I believe, over in New York, he had just published his book, The Age of Spiritual Machines. All right, now Kurzweil is somebody who's worked at Google now for years. Google has their not only immortality division, but they want a reverse age. Okay? And he is, it's tough for a company to have like a spiritual guru, but this would be the guy. And what kind of spirit is this? When I'll say this, he's very honest here about consciousness and machines. All right? And he's tried to manipulate and change this because he realizes what he's saying, that anybody with a thinking brain realizes what he's offering humanity is this idea that we're going to replace ourselves, not live forever.
They are the most subtle, complex, deep, and rich phenomena that goes on in the human brain. These new entities will evidence that same kind of rich behavior. We will meet machines in the next century, and what I mean by machines is a non-biological entity, an entity that's not a carbon cell-based entity, that's not based on DNA-guided protein synthesis, but that is nonetheless based on the principles of the methods of the human brain, and they will claim to be conscious, they'll claim to have emotional experiences, they'll claim to have spiritual experiences, hence the title of my book. And unlike entities today, because you can meet virtual personalities in your kids' computer games, these 21st century entities will be very compelling. They'll be very convincing when they evidence these things. And in fact, they'll be very intelligent, so they will succeed in convincing us that they are conscious, that they have emotional experiences, and that they have spiritual experiences. And we'll settle it the way we always settle these issues, which is politically, and most people will be convinced because these entities are going to be very convincing.
So I want to stop it here. Okay? Think about what he's telling you right here. In a moment, we're going to go to Martine Rothblatt, who is an acolyte of Kurzweil. Okay, Kurzweil actually, I believe, has written forwards in some of the books that Rothblatt has written. Most powerful transgender person on the planet, in my opinion. Yes, you've got the Pritzkers, but Rothblatt is so honed in on the technological aspects of this. When they talk about this, they say they're going to be convincing. Most people right now are convinced when ChatGPT tells them something or Grok tells them something. That iteration of the AI is already somewhat convincing, and we're in its infancy. We're in its infancy. And he mentioned politics. Well, politics moves through the law and lawyers. Okay, and Rothblatt is going to acknowledge that as well. Let's continue.
They'll get mad if we don't agree with them. So we will come to believe that they are conscious. But that's a little bit different than the philosophical statement that they are conscious. I mean, a lot of people in write-ups on my book have said, well, Ray Kurzweil's predicting conscious machines. My prediction's a little bit different. We're going to have machines that claim to be conscious, and they're going to be very convincing, and we're going to believe them. That's a little bit different than absolutely saying that they are conscious.
He's telling you the truth here. He's telling you they're here to dupe you and will get angry if you don't believe the dupe. Now, before we go into mind files and copying this information and becoming a poor imitation of what you really are, I want you to think about what he's telling you right now. He's telling you 1984 on steroids. And what do I mean by that? Well, you got to believe that 2 + 2 = 5. And you eventually believe that because you know the repercussions if you don't. That if you don't, the power structure is going to get angry at you. Sound like something else? Maybe believing things are safe and effective? And repeating that mantra because if you don't, you might lose your job? Huh. The truth of the matter is, as human beings, when you are making fear-based decisions, especially on a human level, okay, on a societal level, that's bad news brown every single time for the general populace, for the masses. And it only empowers a minutia of those within that species. And I think there are subspecies, quite frankly. I mean, they call themselves social Darwinists. That many of them come from long-term nepotistic bloodlines that actually think they are chosen to rule? Wearing crowns and capes and Johnny nonsense like that? Whoa! Puke in my mouth. Whoa! So, I want to go back to Kurzweil here for a moment, okay? And I want him to talk about the mind file, because then we're going to get to Rothblatt and telling you the same exact type of mind file. And a mind file of you is the ultimate track trace database in order to create this mind file. And they want to get so intrusive, all right? Forget about just what you do and say and where you go and how you interact. They want your inner monologue. These are some of the things that make us human. My goodness, here we go.
So we're not going to throw our mind file away just because the hardware crashes or as we go to the next very personal computer to embody our bodies and our brains. We'll copy them and we'll retain that information. There's a little fly in the ointment from my perspective, which is just because there's this entity that thinks it's Ray Kurzweil because he has that memory, that snapshot of all the memories and knowledge that I've accumulated over the last several decades that have been on this planet. I'm still, the old Ray Kurzweil, which is me, is still here in my carbon cell-based brain, and so my consciousness hasn't really been transferred over to this new entity. In fact, you could have scanned my brain while I was sleeping and go and create this copy. I wouldn't even necessarily know about it. So I'll just probably end up jealous of this guy because he'll share my ambitions and dreams, but he'll be in a much better position than I am to fulfill them.
So once again, he's telling you you cannot transfer your consciousness. It's impossible. Now, he also talks about the idea of being able to scan somebody's brain without them knowing it and then transfer that over. I don't know if that technology will ever actually exist. Who knows? But once again, I just wanted to illustrate this idea of a quote-unquote mind file. Because the next thing that we're going to get into is a digital twin. And the truth of the matter is that we as humans, we don't remember everything. And that our memories do change and shift and we get things wrong. All right? The truth is that their vision of a mind file would actually be more accurate than just taking what's in our brain. all right? Because they're going to utilize GPS data. They're going to utilize photographic and video evidence. They're going to cross-reference that with the other people or things you've interacted with. Okay? So a digital copy of that is going to be different than what we perceive as reality. But let's get into Rothblatt and Mind Files.
Is also the recipient of this year's Billie Jean King Leadership Initiative Award, which is devoted to LBGT issues, and puts her in an interesting issue because she has a company, or part of the company is based in North Carolina, which, as you know right now, she might get arrested for going to the bathroom if the governor had anything to do about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Martine Rothblatt. Martine, one of the basic concepts that you're interested in, it's not just improving life, but it's actually immortality, that we're all going to live forever. And Martine, I might mention, has founded a religion, as one does, known as Terrasim. It's based on transhumanism. And you have the idea that we're not just going to live a long time, but we're all going to live forever. Tell us your concept of immortality and how that actually would work.
We're all going to live forever. Immortality. This is 2016. This is almost a decade ago. This is all buzz terminology to get you on board. Okay?
Thanks, Neely. It's a great pleasure to be here. The idea is one that has been percolating up from lots of people in the information technology industry for a while. Perhaps Ray Kurzweil, who is a prolific inventor, is best known for the idea that as our abilities in the information processing industry, computer software, storage of more and more of our thoughts and our ideas outside of our body becomes easier, more automatic, less expensive, that ultimately we're going to have sort of digital doppelgangers of ourselves that are stored in the cloud and are able to present themselves to any manner of devices. And that...
And let me just stop myself right here, or themselves, or myself, if this is just an AI-generated digital twin of Jason Bermas, which it isn't. Right now, people are training artificial intelligence with their thoughts, actions, emails, past credit, the whole nine, to be their assistants as themselves. We're actually watching a lot of this happening in real time. But is it immortality? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this idea of putting everything into the cloud, there is no such thing as a cloud. You're giving up your information and you're putting it on another server. Instead of hardlining it here, well, it's backed up. Back it up on a USB stick. Now, if you need to share it, I mean, I have a Dropbox. I see, here's that idea of technology empowering enslaving, right? On Windows, they want a carbon copy of everything. And now with Windows and even in Google, like when you do stuff, they automatically want to save your data. It's not save, they want your data. Okay, they want access to it. The only time I utilize that kind of stuff is when I'm working with somebody else and they need access to the document and we got to edit it together, or when I upload a show like this to somebody that has to put commercials in it or put it on a network, et cetera, et cetera. That's it. That's it. I'm trying to stick to my humanity, and all this cloud technology and these AI data servers that are being built are trying to what? Exploit it to enslave it. That's what's going on.
As thousands and thousands of software coders and hackers and people in the maker movement work to make the software that runs these digital doppelgangers ever more lifelike, ever more human-like, there'll come sort of a tipping point when people begin to claim that these digital doppelgangers have achieved what we call consciousness, an ability to have a sense of themselves, hopes, fears, and feelings. And at that point, I think the activity will move to the legal arena as to whether or not these digital doppelgangers really are conscious, really do have an independent legal identity. And kind of the trend of progressive thinking is once there's a scientific consensus, and in this case it would be the science of psychology, that being the science of the mind, that these digital doppelgangers are in fact cyber-conscious, then they'll begin to acquire the sorts of rights and protections that we assign to even our pets, laboratory animals, and to quite a high extent to primates like chimpanzees. And so in this way, ourselves will kind of morph into a sort of digital consciousness that is recognized by the law as being alive.
There's a lot of lies there. First of all, this movement to try to make these entities that are created have some type of rights. It will go far beyond pets or laboratory animals. Okay, I guarantee you that once you get there. Now, if you didn't notice, as I mentioned before, Rothblatt is transgender, wrote the book From Transgender to Transhuman, a manifesto of the freedom of form. Okay? And one of the ways that they want to push society into this is they want you to mentally, spiritually, and then physically abandon your biology. That's what this whole transgender thing at the end of the day is. Okay, it is transhumanism. It is altering yourself. And in this virtual arena, they want to sell you that you can be anything. Okay, because it's not 3, 4, 5, 6 genders. Rothblatt talks about billions of genders. Billions with a B. Absurdity, insanity, total disassociation from what we are as a species. And a gateway to that is the idea that you can somehow biologically become the opposite sex. Now, you see Rothblatt. Rothblatt has walked the walk, not just talked the talk. But did you know that Ray Kurzweil also has a female persona? Now, I believe in this clip also, Kurzweil talks about those nanobots being in your brain. So forget about wearing a headset or having a brain chip. You're already totally and completely occupied by bio-nanotech that can shut off your sensory perception and substitute that sensory perception with a totally and complete fabricated reality. That should be terrifying. But here's Ray Kurzweil discussing it.
Who is Ramona?
Well, this is a project that started a number of years ago. She's a female, she's my female alter ego, and we'll have virtual bodies in these virtual reality environments, particularly when it's through the nervous system. When we have nanobots in our brains that can shut down the signals coming from our real sensors, replace them with the signals that your brain would be receiving if you were in the virtual environment, then it'll feel like you're in that virtual environment. Your body doesn't have to be the same body that you have in real reality. A couple could become each other, for example. And so I wanted to demonstrate how you could do that.
Well, in virtual reality, you can be who you want to be, and you can be where you want to be and with whom you want to be. In virtual reality, you can be someone else. You don't have to be the same boring person all the time. I mean, you all have these personalities inside you that don't quite fit with your bodies in real reality. So basically, most people just, kill them all off. Some people don't actually keep any of their personalities, which reminds me of some of my old boyfriends, but that's another story.
Because I want to hear about Ray Kurzweil's old boyfriends in virtual reality. That's 2006 as well, I believe. So the Rothblatt clip, 2016. This is 2006, almost 20 years ago. Yeah, that's why you saw the mocap, and it was, looked like PS3 graphics, okay? These are the people we're dealing with, folks. This is the reality. And I'm telling you right now, one more time. There's one shot at the title. We get one shot. Okay? Our biology is part of our entire reality. Okay? The only way we shift that reality for the better, okay, is accepting our humanity and not trying to fight it. And not only not trying to fight it, but literally coming cutthroat style for the rest of humanity that you the predator class, sees as subhuman, so you can try to achieve that. Insanity. Not going to happen. I'm fighting the human battle till the end, and I hope that you are too. By the way, 133 people watching this one live. Can we get 100 thumbs up? I could really appreciate that. If you're in the live chat, thank you so much for commenting. Comment down below as well. That helps the broadcast. I want to remind everybody, all my documentary films, 2 of them on 9/11, 24th anniversary, literally around the corner. Fabled Enemies, Loose Change Final Cut. They're free down below. I need you to watch those if you have not seen them and spread them around. Remember, I am going to be in D.C., leave tomorrow morning for the Turning the Tide 9/11 Justice in 2025 event. Going to be emceeing the event on the 11th. Again, all-star lineup. I need your support. I need your support. $5, $10, $15. It really does mean the world to me. 15 from Don Pelvito while we did the broadcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Larger donors, consider the PayPal down below. We're going to see how much we actually get to broadcast. Most of the event from Turning the Tide is in the afternoon into evening. So maybe we'll take a stroll around DC, do some live streaming there. If we don't, I do apologize. I'm sure I'm going to be caught up in a ton of stuff while I'm there. But the bottom line is I could not do it without you. So I want to thank all of you that have watched this broadcast. We've been around a long time in many different forms, but the Bermas Brigade has always been there for me. Thank you. I absolutely love you guys. Remember, it is not about left or right. It is always about right and wrong, and I will see you all on the flip side.